Since we're recording now, should we start now?
Yeah, let's start. We can start.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon now, actually. My name is Elizabeth Hafen, and I am here to moderate today's orientation on behalf of the Dean's Ambassador Council, also known as DAC. DAC is a leadership council within the School of Social Sciences, which hosts academic and social events throughout the year in order to foster a sense of community with the professors and the students within each department. You'll be seeing us host multiple events upon the upcoming year. For today, I'd like to introduce you to the Chicano Latinos department. Please welcome Hector Tobar. He's the undergraduate director. We also have Deborah Michael, who's a department manager. Elizabeth Cervantes, who is the academic counselor, and Carissa Sorensen, who is the SART director. They will be here to present and answer any questions that you may have. Please ask the questions in the chat, and we'll be answering those questions towards the end. So please feel free to use the Q&A option towards the bottom of your screen to submit those questions to our panel. Thank you, and I'll hand it over to our department to start the orientation.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you involved in organizing this. It takes a really big team to start these orientations and to get us started on week 0. And I want to welcome everyone here to the Chicano Latino Studies orientation for 2021-22. My name is Hector Tobar, or Hector Tobar in English if you prefer. I'm an associate professor and the undergraduate director. This is my first event as undergraduate director. I am inheriting this post from the fantastic Dr. Glenda Flores, who has been training me via email on all my duties. And I won't know the answer to all of your questions, but I'll do the best I can with the help of our wonderful team here. So first, I thought I would talk to you about why there is a Chicano Latino Studies department very quickly. And the department is really founded in struggle. I mean, this is something that I think a lot of you know. But essentially, you'll remember that there was once a time in California history where Latino people were mostly Mexican-American, and they were a very small minority in the state of California, and they were essentially oppressed and suffered prejudice and were guided into, shop classes in high school and treated like inferior beings. And there was a movement in the schools starting in 1968, the walkouts, the famous East Los Angeles walkouts, which you'll learn about if you take some of our classes. And then in 1970, the Chicano moratorium against the war, which created this whole notion of a Chicano movement, and the term Chicano, right, which is a synonym for Mexican-American, but a sort of term of pride, sort of the way Latinx is today for a lot of people. And then these movements continued. In 1993, there were hunger strikes to create Chicano and Latino studies all up and down the state of California. There was one at UCLA that I covered once as a reporter. I was a reporter at the LA Times, and the students fasted for a very long time, to the point where they were losing weight and they were in wheelchairs, fasting to support the creation of Chicano studies at UCLA. There were also demonstrations and hunger strikes at Stanford and at UC Santa Barbara and other campuses. And so our department is born out of that mission. We're 16 years old. We had our quinceañera last year, and now we're 16 years old. And this department essentially exists to help guide the state of California in its transition to understanding itself as a Latinx or Latino place. California is in many ways a Latinx story today. This pie graph, which you may see if you don't have it obscured there by the thumbnails on the side, shows that the Latino population today in California is actually a plurality. There are more people who call themselves Latino or Latinx or Hispanic than any other ethnic group, right? And there's this iconic picture that I really love. It's of a graduation from our sister University, UC Merced, the newest campus, by the way, in the UC system, where this young woman chose to sort of pose for a photograph, right, with her farm worker parents. And this is the story of our department, right? It's a department where people very often, from working class roots, students who are their first, members in their family go to college thanks to the incredible labor, right, of their parents or their guardians or whoever it is that supported them. And so California, that's the story of California, right? But unfortunately, Latino people really don't run the institutions of California, generally speaking. And so that story isn't really well known, right? So our mission at Chicano Latino Studies is the study of the Latinx experience, right? It's to understand the ways in which being Latino, Latinx history, Latinx culture and society shape what it means to be a resident of California, a resident of the United States, right? That's our mission. And our professors work across many, many different disciplines, from political science and history to psychology to literary journalism and English, like me. And so that's our mission, is really to give us a sense of where California and the United States are as a society, okay? And you might be a first generation student, very common, right, for us to be. I was a first generation college student, and many of our faculty members also are first generation college graduates. And I say this not just to celebrate our achievement, but also to let you know that if you're a new student here and you are the first person in your family to go to college, or you had one family member, a sibling, go to college, or your dad went to community college for a year or so like mine did, but you don't really have that university experience in your background, well, you're not alone. This department really is built on the first gen experience. And we're here to support you in that. You won't be a stranger. You'll find this a home. I think that when I came here as a new professor a few years ago, just 4 years ago, I immediately felt that this was a family. And I say that really totally sincerely. Chicano Latino Studies is a family that is here to support first-gen students and all Latino students. So every year we adopt a theme at Chicano Latino Studies. And this year, our theme is bienestar, which means well-being. So we're going to be trying to think about what's happened essentially to the pandemic over the last year, and also all these issues of our health, right, of our well-being. Many of you know that it isn't easy to grow up healthy when you grow up in a Latinx or immigrant family. A lot of times we have obstacles, right, to our well-being. We live near sites of pollution. We live in so-called food deserts where it's hard to get healthy food. So this is something that we'll be talking about in the course of the year. So look out for events that tackle the theme of bienestar. That is our theme for the year. And speaking of bienestar and health, I would like to introduce our chair, the leader of our department, the very, very distinguished Professor Belinda Campos, who's a social psychologist and has a PhD from UC Berkeley. She studies culture, relationships, and health, among other things. And she also has worked in the program in medical education for the Latino community. So if you are a pre-med major or someone who's considering health, studies, a profession in health, please, consider Belinda to be one of our resources. And Belinda, are you there? Can we ask?
I am here.
If you want to say a few words. There you are, Profesora. So please, yes,
for that really flattering introduction. So I definitely wanted to echo all the things that Professor Tovar is saying, that we want to welcome you back to the 2021-2022 school year, that we are wishing you all mucha buena suerte on this year. We want the wind to be at your back for your academic goals, whether you're the first in your family to be here at college, whether you're the third folks in your family to be here at college, or more. We want you to be able to flourish and to thrive in your learning goals at UCI. And I want to give a particular shout out to those of you who are going to be taking 102 and 101 this year. So you're our majors and you're reaching that part of your educational journey where you're going to do our most ambitious course, which has you learning about research methods, which means learning about how to generate knowledge, which is the thing that we pride ourselves in here at the UC system. You're going to learn how to generate knowledge and carry it out yourself. And you're going to have at the end of that course sequence, the 101 and 102, a paper to show for all of your work and all that you've done. And I look forward to that. And for those of you who are taking part in our introductory courses for the first time, I hope that you'll find that Professor Tovar's initial immersion into what is Chicano Latino studies to be a little taste of what you're going to learn in depth and what you're going to grow to have an appreciation and awareness for, not just of the struggles that our people have encountered, because those are a very significant part of the study, but also the resilience that our people have shown in being able to get ahead, and the resilience that you're showing today by being here as part of your undergraduate education. So as Professor Tovar was saying, we have a palabra del año, salud y bienestar, well-being, and we take that very seriously in our department. And the Chicano Latino Studies faculty and staff are here for you. We are hoping for a good and productive academic year, and we hope that the wind is at all of our backs in being able to achieve this. So welcome to this year, and let's hope that it's a good one. Gracias, Professor Tovar.
Thank you, Professora Campos. Thank you so much for those eloquent and supportive words. So requirements, our chair mentioned there briefly one of the requirements, and since this is an orientation, in the course of it, I'm going to be going through a few of the requirements for the major, which I think many of you may know, and also which are included in a PDF which you should be receiving if you signed up for this orientation. So we have the essence of the major are 5 classes that are core classes. There is Chicano Latino Studies 61, which is a survey of Chicano Latino history, taught this year by both Ana Rosas, if I'm not mistaken, and Anita Casavantes Bradford. Very, very popular course, very, very essential course, really incredibly eye-opening. I mean, I remember the first time I started learning about the history of Latino people and Latin American people. You know, it really is something where you begin to understand a lot of things about your own personal life, even, I think, when you take a history course. 62 is a course which I teach and which I will be teaching this year in the winter. It's a survey of Chicano Latino culture. Incredibly fun class, also a very emotional class. We talk about the work of some of our great novelists. We also talk about some of the work of some of our great filmmakers and theater people. So 62 is a very, very, it's a survey of culture, and I think you'll enjoy it when you take it. I'm offering it again this winter, and I'm sure many of you will be in my class. 63 is a study of contemporary issues and policies. So for example, what's going on now at the border is something that would come out at that class, is something you might talk about. You talk about these contemporary issues. Now, the next 2 classes are actually kind of scary for if you think about it right from the beginning, because they involve you writing a long research paper. But it's really an incredible opportunity to be able to immerse yourself in a single topic. And in a sense, it's a kind of preparation for your life after your graduation. 101 is a class in which you're taught research methods. You're taught how to gather data. You're taught how to use archives and other resources. And in 102W, you actually sit, and in the course of an entire quarter, you are essentially guided through the writing of this long research paper. So I think it's a really wonderful way in which our major is structured for you to be able to do that. Now, one of the professors we have teaching both 61 and many other courses in the major, who also I think is someone who's a really, really great mentor, is Anita Casavantes Bradford. Is Anita here? Did she make it? No, she's not. Do you see her on the list of participants? No. So Anita is just someone I wanted to highlight because she is an incredible historian, incredible professor, and someone who I think is really, really, really just an incredible asset to our department. She's of Cuban heritage, writes a lot, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what our different professors' research interests are, because in a certain sense, these are resources, and it's kind of like by becoming a student in our department, you're sort of purchasing the right to sort of talk to us about our projects and our intellectual sort of, goals. And that's part of what it means to become an undergraduate at our department. Anita's the author of The Revolution is for the Children, The Politics of Childhood in Havana and Miami, talking about that sort of first wave of Cuban migration and what it meant for the children who travel in that first wave. Now, another professor of ours is Dr. Glenda Flores, who is the author of Latina Teachers. Glenda, are you here? Yes? I think she is.
I'm here, if you can see.
And I wanted to ask you, Glenda, if you could just sort of say a few words about, about the aspects of our major that require research. So for example, the 101, that sequence of classes, that the core class, but also people who might be considering, doing the honors portion of our major, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Why is it that research and doing this sort of, long research paper, why is it, do you think, is it important for our majors?
Yeah, so I mean, I think doing the research project is so important for our majors. One, because they get to choose the topic that, they want to examine and that they want to look at. So I know that we tell students part of being at UC Irvine is getting involved in research. And sometimes you can work with professors and join their project. But one of the beautiful things of Chicano Latino studies is that you can develop your own. So something that's like near and dear to your heart, something that maybe has always interested you, a question that you've had. And that's what you do in 101. So in 101 is where we help you develop, what is your question? What methods are you going to use to answer that question? How are you going to go about it? And what literature you need to read. And in 102W is where you write the paper. And I think the paper is important because you get feedback from professors and it can be used as a writing sample for any graduate program applications. If you're thinking of going to graduate school, it can serve as a purpose for that. And, some students combine 101 and 102W with the honors program in Chicano Latino Studies.
Excellent. Yes, excellent. I think, when I think about my own experience as an undergraduate and writing long papers at UC Santa Cruz, I had no idea that writing was a profession. And I later became a writer in part because of these habits that I developed. And I think that writing that sort of doing that research project really is going to prepare you for the real world. It seems kind of, a kind of non-intuitive thing to say. But really, you just being on your own, a little bit more independent, immersing yourself in this task is absolutely essential. So thank you, Dr. Flores. Gracias. So moving on to other requirements. Okay, so other requirements are and you'll see these in the handout that we sent to you. For example, you must complete Spanish 2A or submit an AP Spanish credit or pass a Spanish test. Many of you are native Spanish speakers. I'll talk a little bit about my own Spanish in a second. I would have failed the Spanish test. I took Spanish when I was an undergraduate. I was one of those people who had lost most of his Spanish by the time I was a teenager. Also, you're going to need to take one comparative ethnic studies course. It can be an African American studies course, an Asian American studies course, or Education 124, which is a class on multicultural K through 12 education. 3 different upper division electives in history or inequalities in social context, and 4 more elective courses. So that sounds like a lot, but the courses are pretty awesome that you can take. And every quarter, you're going to have a wide variety of choices of courses you can take. In the handout that we sent you, you'll see a list of course offerings just for this year. A lot of those courses are courses you might not be able to take this year for different requirements, but it just gives you a sense, right, I think, of what is available out there. So for example, here's just a small sample of the totally awesome course offerings. Ana Rosas is going to be teaching Chicano history through film. I believe that's this quarter. revolution in Latin America. A lot of these are cross-listed with other departments, but there are courses, but there are also courses that are being listed in other departments. Latino Metropolis, Mexico Past and Present, Latinos, Latinas, and Medical Care Contemporary Issues, Latino Popular Culture, another course from the wonderful Ana Rosas, Borderland Cinema, special topics on Latina reproductive health, and lastly, in this small sample, Immigrant Emotionality, which is a course that I teach, which is a writing course, which is a course in which we attempt to enter the emotional aspects of the Latino experience in a long writing project, a creative nonfiction writing project. A lot of students write about their families in this, and it is incredibly emotional and intellectual experience. So those are some of our course offerings. I would also just want to give a plug here, since Spanish is part of one of our requirements. And if since you should become, fairly, adept at Spanish, even if you don't speak it already, I think even just one course will help tremendously, is that you should consider study abroad. I did study abroad when I was an undergraduate at UC Santa Cruz. It was an amazing experience. It was like a year for me in Mexico City. We also have them in Spain and Argentina and other countries. And you just get to immerse yourself in this other culture. Your Spanish will become great. When I went to Mexico City for a year, I came back and I started talking like a Chilango, like a Mexico City resident. My mother was absolutely terrified that I could cuss like a Mexico City resident. So those are some of the benefits, right, of doing study abroad. So I want you to consider that. Another aspect of our program is the major honors program. This is something that will be open to you in your senior year, okay? If you're a returning student and you're a senior, consider this. You get to do, it's sort of like our other course, the 101, that's sort of the research course, but like at an even bigger level, where you do a year-long project. You enroll in 3 courses, fall, winter, and spring quarter, 190 A, B, and C. And you complete this long project that could involve, one student I had her honors thesis was a wonderful series of nonfiction essays about growing up in Honduras and growing up in California. That was absolutely amazing. I really think that this student is really going to be a book author one day. She's just absolutely amazing. Now, the one thing you should know is that if you're a senior and you're here right now and you're considered doing that, the deadline is week 3 of this quarter to sign up for 190A and to turn in some paperwork to me in which we'll get you enrolled in that, okay? Started on that honors program. So that's something that, that you should know. And the other thing I want to say about, the honors program and the research component is I want you to, a big research program, a project is something that can really change your life. Like Professor Flores was saying, think of it like if you do our honors project, for example, think of it as a transition between college and the real world. You apply critical ideas to real life problems when you tackle a big project. You'll be able to work closely with a faculty member to shape those ideas. And you'll learn certain habits, certain ways of critical thinking that are going to stay with you for the rest of your life. So I am I'm a writer, I'm a social critic. Almost everything that I am able to sort of say as a writer really goes back to what I learned when I was 18, 19, and 20 years old at UC Santa Cruz in these kinds of classes where I had to do these big projects. So it really will transform your life. It's a chance to sort of take advantage of being in the university, a time when you can study anything you want. It really is a short period of time in which you get to sort of play with all of the ideas of the world and study some of them. So I just wanted to say that. We also have a major certificate program where you can obtain the certificate by going to a certain number of events, for example, attending a certain number of classes. All of this is outlined, I believe, in some of the materials that we sent you. And you get something that you can add to your CV. So after you graduate from college, you're going to be applying for your first jobs. You'll have this entry in your CV or your resume that will say, I did a major certificate in Chicano Latino, social policy issues. And it shows that you have sort of a concern for the real world, right? And that helps, I think, a lot when you apply for your first jobs, if you decide to do that. Also, we have a program, a residence program at Casa Cesar Chavez, which is a housing option that's available to undergraduate students. And the person who is sort of our stakeholder in that is Ana Rosas, who, Ana, are you still here? Have you left us? Are you still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are, Ana. Thank you. Ana, I wanted to ask about two things. First of all, if you could tell us, you're teaching 61 this quarter, correct? Yes?
Yes, I am.
If you could talk to us a little bit about that, and also Casa Cesar Chavez, just for our students here. Can I ask you, well, first of all, what is Casa Cesar Chavez up and running? What happened to it during the pandemic, and is it still going?
It's still going. I want to first take a step back and just really congratulate everyone for being a part of the session. You're receiving a lot of helpful information. I really appreciate the roadmap that Professor Lovato has created for all of us in terms of bringing us together to reconnect virtually, in terms of all the underpinnings our department strives to honor through the different curriculum opportunities. So if you've heard mention the honors program, the research sequence, as well as the different courses being offered this academic year, Casa is in some ways very much wanting to thrive off of all of these different energies, in the sense that the opportunity that Casa offers is to door in with people who have an interest in Chicanx, Latinx studies, and finding ways to collaborate while respecting COVID-19 protocols. Last year, a lot of our work centered on collaborating virtually. So I was able to support and facilitate several workshops for students who were new to the UCI campus as students, as well as students who had already a trajectory of living in Casa Cesar Chavez. And so that brought us together in ways in which we were support so that we wouldn't feel intellectually isolated from each other. This academic year, there's more room for in-person engagement. And so we're brainstorming on what that could be and how big to make these opportunities to connect, because first and foremost is to abide by all the protocols that housing has in place. But as soon as I am able to really finalize this with the current resident advisor, as well as what they've now implemented, a program assistant, which is meant to provide support to both the resident advisor and me, and with collaborations in terms of providing us with research we might need or feedback we might need, as well as any kind of technical support needed for programming. So once we have that finalized, I'll make sure to see how it could be something that we open up to majors and minors in the department to participate in. We're thinking of monthly workshops that really allow people to immerse themselves in engaged conversations on art, as well as this idea of what it means to think about Dia de los Muertos in a very proactive sense, as a community building common ground event, as well as a way of approaching history. And so that's where we're at with Casa Cesar Chavez. And I know earlier in preparing for this, I was asked to think about our courses and how to really open them up in terms of thinking about them as opportunities. So I'm teaching a class that centers on film and film as a source for how we consider our connection to popular culture, both as consumers, but also as pretty much compasses of sorts in terms of what currently is being cast as the language to use, the kinds of memories that are constantly reiterated through film projects, as well as the way in which Latinx, Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx is a part of that experience. And so I welcome working with students in our major as well as from different majors. I'm a professor who teaches in the School of Humanities and the School of Social Sciences. So my courses attract students across the diversity of interests. So it makes for a robust consideration when discussing the content with students. And I look forward to teaching this in a hybrid model. I'll be teaching Chicano Latinos 361, as Professor Lovato emphasized earlier. And I hope to really just provide a very full and at the same time comprehensive mapping of what it means to think about the politicization of Latinx communities across time and how they've really had different vantage points and different catalysts in terms of catalytic moments towards really energizing people to think very proactively. So thank you for this space and this opportunity to connect with you all. And again, congratulations for being here. And I look forward to all the work ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rosas. If you have a chance to take a class with her, you really should jump at the opportunity, because just her intellectual interest, this it really links this sort of intimate spaces of family very often with these larger social forces of history and society that are shaping our communities. And so thank you very much, Dr. Rosas. Now, we have many events scheduled for the coming year, and there are events that we are sponsoring, other people are sponsoring. One event, and I'm going to sort of minimize that for a second so we can see the whole thing, is on October 13th on Zoom. We're going to be having an event called Salud, Amor y Bienestar, a student perspective on Latinx family health and resilience in the pandemic. And this particular event is going to be by students, UCI students, many of them who are majors in the different health sciences, talking about their experiences during the pandemic and their observations on how our community was impacted and how our community has reacted to that. So that's one of our events. Also, we have, and I also want to tell you that in this particular picture, the woman who's passing out the food here is someone that I wrote about in National Geographic. She is a Harvard graduate who's also a DACA recipient who set up a nonprofit in the Santa Ana area. And here she is sort of passing out food during the pandemic. Is coming on October 14th in an event organized by our Latinx Student Center, Latinx Resource Center. Danny Trejo, famous actor in so many movies, playing El Machete and other sort of tough guys. Danny Trejo will be here on October 14th. Sandra Cisneros will be coming in April of 2022 and next spring. This will be a virtual event and sponsored by UCI Illuminations. Sandra, as many of you already know, an incredible short story and fiction writer and memoirist, really an icon in the Latino community. A lot of us owe our careers as authors, I do as a literary author, to Sandra and the groundbreaking work that she did, especially in the 80s and 90s, in opening up American fiction and American publishing to Latino writers. You might know her for The House on Mango Street or her wonderful short story collection, Woman Hollering Creek, in which the sort of young woman of House on Mango Street grows up and does all sorts of naughty things. Not the exact same person, but kind of, that sort of character. So Sandra Cisneros will be here in April of 2022. And then in winter 22, at a time to be determined, and I'm not certain yet if this will be in person or if it will be online, it will likely be in person. The Central American, Salvadoran, San Francisco writer, Roberto Lovato, will be coming to visit and speaking to us. He is, for those of you who don't know him, he's the author of a book called Unforgetting, which is essentially about El Salvador in this time of mass migration and gang warfare and incredible violence. And Roberto has this way of taking apart all this history, talking about his own family history. His father was a survivor of the 1932 massacre, La Matanza, in El Salvador. So Roberto Lovato will be here in the winter of 2022. He is a force of nature, and we will be sending you, of course, updates on when exactly that will be. And you shouldn't really miss that. Roberto is really an amazing speaker. Also, more close in time, later on this week, Friday, is La Bienvenida is going to be taking place at the Pacific Ballroom at the UCI Student Center from 5 to 8 p.m. There's going to be food and booths. I will be staffing a booth there. I don't know what I'm going to have at my booth other than flyers and leaflets, but I will be there. And you can say hello to me in person, and I can, talk to you a little bit more about the department you like or about writing. I'm a professional writer and author. So that will be happening on the 24th. Also, the Latinx Resource Center asked that I tell you that they offer a course that meets Mondays from 4 to 4:50. It's called Thrive 2021. And it's a course offered by the director of the Resource Center, Adeli Duron. And it offers first-year students an opportunity to learn valuable skills information that will help them succeed at UCI. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, this your first days at UCI, and tienes un poco de miedo, estás un poco asustado, maybe you want to drop in and at least visit the class or talk to the group people at the Latino Latinx Resource Center. So those events are going on. Also, we are on social media, the department. We're on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook. We will be more active now as the quarter begins again. So look to our social media accounts. Also, a very important resource that all of you need to know about, and it can really, really help you, especially if you are a new student. It's the first few weeks and you're feeling overwhelmed or you're confused and you have two ideas of what you think you should study in addition to Chicano Latino studies, and you don't know what it is. We have wonderful academic advisors. We have Elizabeth Cervantes and Estela Magaña, who are, their job is to help answer your questions about all the different sort of requirements and all the different steps you can take, resources. So please, they're there for you. They're there to help you. Elizabeth is here on this call right now, and he's here to answer your questions after we sort of complete the presentation here. So very, very important. And there's also the other resources include, and I just want to sort of mention, our entire sort of faculty. Now, one thing you may not sort of realize this, but all of us, work for you. We're paid by the California taxpayers to work for you. Now, as professors, we have to have all these other research interests. We're writing books and we're writing papers and we're investigating and everything. And that's an important part of what we do. But it's also extremely critical and important for us. And it's part of our job descriptions that we work with you, right? And that we help you, that we are mentors to you. So all of us have open doors. Now, I had mentors when I was an undergraduate. When I was a graduate student, I received an MFA at UC Irvine. Those mentors, their job is to help guide you. And so we have an incredible faculty. Laura Enriquez, Alana Deblon, Luis DeCipio, Isabel Ramos, working in many different fields. And all of us, we have an open door. Now, some of us might not be around we might disappear for an entire quarter. Don't take it personal. We're probably off doing some research. But if we are around, look up our office hours, write emails to us. If there's a particular research interest or area that you consider studying, please contact us, and we will be happy to answer all the questions we can. Also, I need to tell you that there is a very, very important person who is a part of this department. I couldn't upload her picture because Debbie has hidden her face from the internet, and so you can't find her in Google Images. Debbie Michelle, are you there? Can I just introduce you quickly to our students?
I'm here.
Yes, there you are. Debbie keeps us all going. She is the foundation, the rock of the department. Without her, there is no Chicano Latino Studies department. And if you wander on the floor where our department is located, you'll see her working most days. Her schedule is going to be a little bit different. But Debbie, can you just say hello to our students and tell us, sort of what you can provide them or anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, we're always usually in the office. We are going to start doing a hybrid schedule, so we'll be a little bit differently, but you're always welcome to email us, give us a call if you need anything. We can help you with a lot of administrative type stuff, and we can give you a heads up on classes that are coming up. Even if they're not for our department, I can let you know, if you're really interested in a class in sociology, you can come ask me and I'll look it up and see if it's being offered, so we can give you a little heads up, things like that. But we do all the administrative work for the department. We try to keep the faculty in line, as Hector said, but yeah, we're always there to help you, or if you just want to talk, we're there, come by, say hi. And our doors are usually always open. I don't know how it's going to be right now with, everything still kind of up in the air there. They might close a little bit, but just knock on the door. Like I said, we're usually there, and you're welcome to come up and say hello whenever you're in that area. Okay? We welcome you. No problem.
Thank you so much, Timmy. Thank you. And I just want to say lastly, welcome to the Chicano Latino Studies family. It's an amazing family. When you reach the end of this process, we hope that you'll join Nuestra Graduación, which is an amazing event. I mean, I run out of Kleenex for the tears that I shed during Nuestra Graduación, because as you can see in this one picture I have here in the corner, you get to go up there with a couple of your relatives, parents, guardians, best friends, whatever, and thank them in public, and it's really amazing. It's done online, even on the years when we meet in person, it's done online so that your relatives in Mexico who can't come, your relatives in Colombia or in Peru or whatever, Dominican Republic who can't make it, they can see it. It's really a wonderful event. It's a real powerful community, and we have some superstars like Dr. Vicky Ruiz, who's there, one of our professor emeritus, receiving a humanities medal from President Obama just a few years ago. Well, actually, no, it'd have to have been more than 4 years ago when Obama was president. And so it's an amazing community. And I just want to tell you all, it's my honor to be your undergraduate director, and we're all here to serve you. And with that, I'll pass it back over to the good people at the DAC and stop sharing my screen.
I just want to say thank you to Professor Tobar for that amazing presentation. I learned a lot. I just want to say that was a really, really great presentation. I'm going to open up the floor for questions at this time. So it can be any type of questions about coursework, a clarification question, office hours, or any of the topics that we talked about today. The chat is open for questions. So whenever they're ready, I'll read them out loud. In the meantime, there's some pre questions that some people submitted before this presentation, so I can read those out in the meantime.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
There was one. What careers do students typically apply for after graduating from Chicano Latino Studies?
I would say every career you could possibly think of. I mean, I think there are people who go to law school. There are people who are pre-med and are taking Chicano Latino Studies as a double major and go on to medical school. There are people who get involved in community activism and become activists. I'm a writer, so I know the people who become writers. And one of my students from just a year ago is at Columbia University Graduate School, Columbia University School of Journalism. Really, there are just so many things. Because, you can be, for example, a social worker, you will have taken other coursework in social work. But what you learn about Chicano Latino culture or Latinx culture in our classes is going to prepare you for being, let's say, a social worker in Wilmington or Santa Ana or some other community, right? So that's going to be like this foundation for anything you do. So really the sky is the limit. There are, we have engineering students. I have students who come in after taking my class and they're really torn because, say, well, my God, I'm an engineering student and I took your class and I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do? I'm so, am I going to should I give up engineering to sort of study? And I tell my students, look, this is an opportunity when you're at the university to become a Renaissance person, a Renaissance woman, a Renaissance man, a Renaissance, just a Renaissance scholar. And what do I mean by that? It means that you're a person who does many things. You are a person who, is studying computer engineering, but you have a deep love for Chicano Latino culture and literature, right? Those two things are not exclusive. And so this is your opportunity to make yourself into this well-rounded individual. And let me tell you, when you go out into the workforce, people appreciate that. You're not just one thing. You know, you've shown in your work, you've shown in your resume, you've shown in your college interests that you are a person with these broad, you know, interests. I saw my son who graduated from a college back east. His major was political science and physics. And he applied for these computer programming jobs and people loved it, but he read a lot, you know? So, so being a well-rounded person, I think, is part of what our major is about. And yes, our majors do just about everything.
There was another question. It was, what are some examples of research projects other students have done in the past?
Wow, what are research example of research projects? Is Glenda still here, or has she left us? She's, because I mean, she would. Well, let me. Phil, students have written research projects, for example, about attitudes towards you know, in relationships, right? I remember seeing one student project that was, how do people's, you know, Catholic upbringing, how does that influence how their relationships develop when they're in college, right? Those kinds of things. You could write about, for example, you could write about, you know, gay and lesbian LGBTQ issues, right? What is it like to grow up in a family? You know, what choices are available to LGBTQ youth, for example? And you can go send out a survey. You could find 50 students who have had an experience as LGBTQ youth, ask them a series of questions that are, you know, that are designed to come up with some data, right? How much likely are LGBTQ Latino students likely to be depressed or to be conflicted about their identity as compared to white students, for example? So really, there is just about anything in the social sciences, in the humanities, in the, you know, in any kind of behavioral science. You could really, there's just no limit to what you could possibly do.
Thank you for that. We are at time, so I will close off now. I just want to thank everyone for logging in today and to talk more about Chicano Latino studies. Oh, wait, there's one more question actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
Sorry. How does the Chicano Latino studies major differ from the Chicano Latino minor?
Wow, that's a really good question. There are fewer course requirements in the minor. And, you know, I personally am new at this, so I don't really have all of the sort of numbers of courses you take, but there is a significantly fewer number of classes in the minor. And I'll have to sort of refer, you know, if you want to write to me personally, I can answer that question, or you can look it up at our website where both the major and minor requirements are described.
I could also chime in on that question.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I was actually a Chicano Latino Studies minor before working as an academic advisor here. And for the minor, it is around 7 classes to complete. So you have to take the 61, 62, 63 series, as well as around like 4 upper division courses. And the major requirements will be around 14 classes to complete. So essentially the minor is half of what the major would be, except for the minor, you're not doing like the 101 and the 102 W. So I would definitely recommend looking into Chicano Latino studies. After I was done finishing my minor, I honestly had wished I had majored in Chicano Latino studies because it really is such a great department. And as you can see here with all the faculty, they really do care about your well-being and want to see you succeed. So if you have any questions about like the minor requirements as well, you can always reach out to myself or any of our advisors in the office as well.
And our wonderful, wonderful Debbie Michelle has posted a link in the chat if you want to sort of link directly on what the requirements of the minor are in detail. But thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that answer. And thank you to everybody who helped make this event possible.
Yeah, thank you everyone for logging in today again and taking the time to learn more about Chicano Latino studies. Again, please visit the website if you have any other questions or want to learn more about our department. The website will also be sent in a follow-up email, in addition to all the documents that we talked about and we shared with you today. Again, thank you so much, and we'll be in contact with you through email. So please be on the lookout for that email after this.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.